adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Yesterday, I spent the whole day talking about the apparent signing on to the DACA deal by the president. I explained to you in great detail how it would turn us all into serfs if he did that, and how the Republican Party would be out of business for the next 80 to 100 years. It would become a one-party nation, as is California, a one-party state. I suggest you find that somewhere on the internet or on my website, because I'm not going to do the same show again. DACA is cockeyed. It will destroy the Republican Party in America for 80 to 100 years. But today I want to talk about something else, which is a breaking news story. We're going to have with us a great investigative reporter, maybe the only investigative reporter left in America, as I have mentioned before. And he has sent people to Twitter headquarters in San Francisco, where he's done undercover videos of senior Twitter engineers, in one case revealing they have given Trump's private direct messages to the Department of Justice. You have to understand how big this is, and maybe you will after you listen to this show. You will also learn today that they have all your Twitter activity saved. You will also learn on the Savage Nation today things you don't want to know, which is that there is no democracy left in America because of these giants in Silicon Valley. They are fundamentally dictatorships. They have usurped our First Amendment. They're usurping our freedoms, and they need to be reined in by the government. I have said this to you before, but now we have the evidence in front of us. Now, the man behind all of these undercover videos is a man I've had on the show before. And he joins us right now on the Savage Nation, I suppose, in a few minutes. We told him 12:10, didn't we? Here on the West Coast, 3:10 on the West Coast. He'll be with us in a minute. James O'Keefe of Project Veritas is the man who sent the undercover individuals into Twitter. You're not going to believe these tapes. If you want to watch them, go to michaelsavage.com. There are a few other sites that have them. They have not received the wide distribution they deserve. But you will look at them and your jaw will fall out of your mouth. One of them is of an engineer who is of foreign origin. We do not know if he's a citizen or not. I believe he's an H-1B visa worker at the company. I have every reason to believe it. He has no sense of democracy. He cares less about freedom of speech. He cares less about spying on people than any American citizen who went to the fifth grade would. This is the danger of permitting foreigners to work in our nation. This is the danger of unchecked, unbridled immigration from the third world, where there is virtually no democracy. There's no experience of democracy. There's no concept of democracy. There's no concept of privacy. And when you bring these people in from these third world nations and they go to work at places like Twitter in this case, you will see the damage that they are doing without any conscience whatsoever, because this would be standard operating procedure in their home countries, which is why the president must not sign DACA and why he must deport. And he can start with Silicon Valley, and he can start by deporting all the H-1B visa workers and let Americans who have some sense of democracy and justice take the jobs that were stolen from them by people who are working for the leaders of these companies at slave wages. This is the Savage Nation. 855-400-7282 is the phone number. Undercover video begs the question, is Twitter secretly working with Mueller's DOJ, is how I headlined it. There are other stories I'm going to talk about today. President Obama, he's proposing a library in Chicago that even his former colleagues at the University of Chicago are saying, are you crazy? You're going to destroy a park to build a parking lot? And by the way, if you look at the plans, you will see it looks like a Third Reich monument to a dictator from Germany at the time. I've never seen anything as grandiose as this by a living president. But it just shows you the tyranny that we lived through under the Obamas, who posed as good progressive liberals when in fact they laughed all the way to the bank. Never forget that the two of them got a $70 million book advance. That's a $70 million balloon payment after their presidency for a book advance. How's that for helping the poor and downtrodden? Isn't it always the truth? Again, the phone number here is 855-407-282. Let us begin with Project Veritas, Senior Network Security Engineer, Clay Haynes, giving Trump's private direct messages to the DOJ. Let's hear clip one.
The decision, though, was that most of the stuff he tweets is completely newsworthy.
Okay.
And so because it's newsworthy, even though he's making a complete ass out of himself in the country, we have to let those tweets up and let him do what, essentially he has a carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
Okay.
The other thing, too, is that we're more than happy to help the Department of Justice in their little investigation.
Okay.
So,
how?
basically giving him every single tweet that he's posted.
Okay.
Even the ones he's deleted.
Okay.
Any direct messages.
Good.
Any mentions. Oh, yeah.
Okay, now let me translate this for you. Here is Clay Haynes, according to Project Veritas, a senior network security engineer at Twitter, boasting that he is sharing the president's private direct messages with the Justice Department. Do you have any idea what this means? You know, years ago, there was a movie called The Conversation that Francis Ford Coppola did. Coppola is a liberal, a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. Do you remember the days of the 60s and 70s when liberals were outraged by government spying? Where are they today? Where's Francis Ford Coppola, the wine merchant, today? Where are all the big mouths like Robert De Niro today when we see that you have companies spying on not only American citizens but the president himself? Do you have any idea how big this is? You will in a few minutes. When we make news today on the Savage Nation, James O'Keefe joins us on the Savage Nation. James, welcome to the program. Are you there?
Hey, Dr. Savage. Good to be with you.
James, I just played Clay Haynes, Undercover. Can you tell the audience what it is we were hearing?
Yes, this is the senior network security engineer at Twitter. This is an undercover investigation. We met with Clay Haynes, he's not a low-level guy. He's a high-level engineer inside of Twitter, describing the level of access he has to all your direct messages on the platform. Direct messages are private sort of text messages that people send to each other on Twitter. And he's describing how he plans to, and he is willing to give these private messages to the Department of Justice and to sort of take down Trump, and how he loathes Trump. And Dr. Savage, this is one of many videos where we're launching inside of Twitter over the coming days and the coming weeks. And it's a bombshell. It's going to change, as you said yesterday or this week. It's going to change the way people see the world. This is the new town square, and they're censoring your ability to have private thoughts, and they're trying to change the way we think. And that we've suspected it's the case, but now we can prove it with words coming out of their own mouths.
But James, I mentioned to you before the show that back in the 60s and 70s, the left wing in this country, including Francis Ford Coppola with his movie The Conversation, which I think starred Gene Hackman, they were appalled at the idea of government agents spying on American citizens. Why are so-called liberal progressives today so enraptured with spying on American citizens today, in your opinion?
Well, I'd be a hypocrite if I only relied upon my opinion. I'm going to use their words, not mine. In one of these tapes, one of their engineers says, quote, "It's going to ban a way of talking," unquote. That's their words, not mine. They want to fundamentally censor ideas, prevent certain things from coming into the public, and they want to literally stop people from the ability to communicate. That's their words, not mine. These tapes are going to change the game, and there's already been a statement from Twitter, Dr. Savage. I don't know if you saw this, but they...
Oh, no, this is important. Have we had a statement from President Trump yet when he found out his direct messages were being eavesdropped upon by these people at Twitter? Has he said anything yet?
He hasn't. He's going to go on at 3:20 Eastern Time. He's going to go on television. He may comment on it, but Twitter has commented on it. They said, quote, "The individual depicted in this video is speaking in a personal capacity and does not represent or speak for Twitter."
Isn't he a senior engineer, though?
He's a senior network security engineer, and my sources in Silicon Valley tell me that is not an IT guy. He knows he has access to all the DMs, and in subsequent videos, by the way, because this is not just one employee. In subsequent videos, they talk about, and I'm breaking this on your show. This is the first appearance I've made. In subsequent videos, they talk about private, personal messages you send to your wife and what they do with it, and they laugh about it, and they talk about how they sell it. I mean, this is.
Well, let's be very graphic as we can, James. I want the average listener, if they can't follow what you're saying because it's too esoteric, it's sad but true, they probably can't. Why don't you tell them what one of your undercover people did when she asked about people who expose their body parts, what they're doing with them at Twitter?
This guy Clay, and you'll see this in the subsequent releases. This one just focuses on the DOJ and sharing the private messages. This guy Clay, this network security senior engineer, says he stores, and you asked me to be graphic. I'm going to quote him. He says he stores all the dick pics. He says he stores all your dick pics, all your pictures of all your private parts and penis photographs, and he has them on a database. Is what he said.
And what did he say he does with it? Didn't you tell me he said, and I think you said he told you that he then sends them to anyone he hates politically or dislikes politically. He sends them to the wife to destroy marriages, and or to the divorce lawyers on the other side. Did I hear that correctly?
You are quoting a video that will be coming out in the coming days. There's multiple people. This particular guy, his name is Clay. He simply says he stores them on a database, and he says it's creepy, and it's big brothery, and he says it's, quote, scary. Other engineers talk about using these photographs to ruin marriages and send them in. And one guy even, we're learning here, we just got some tape in last week, says that they're selling some of this information. But yes, he talks about dick pics. There's a lot of discussion about, for your readers, because you wanted to make it very clear and plain spoken, a lot of discussion about naked photographs that people privately send to each other. And people may not know this, but every single thing that you text message, even if you delete it on Twitter, they store it, they sell it, and they brag about it. So
is it illegal what they're doing? When we come back, we're going to discuss and play and discuss one of the biggest stories of our time, which is one of the major social media platforms doing things that would have turned the eyes and rolled the minds of true liberals not too long ago, but today liberals look on and applaud. The answer is because there are no liberals today. There are only psychotic fascists posing as liberals, and I'm quoting myself. I'll be right back.
Savage.
What we can do on our side is actually very terrifying. We have full access to every single person's account, every single direct message, deleted direct messages, deleted tweets. I can tell you exactly who logged in from where, what username and password, when they changed their password.
I don't know if you heard that on the Savage Nation, but that is a secret tape obtained by Project Veritas with a senior Twitter engineer named Clay Haynes saying they have all your Twitter activity saved. And we are now rejoined by the head of the organization who did this, James O'Keefe. James, welcome back to the show. James, are you there?
yes, I'm here.
James, okay. James, I want to go backwards in time. I don't think the average American even knows what I'm talking about. What these people are doing seems to me like not only it has no moral compass, that goes without saying. Why is there no outcry from the so-called liberal establishment? This is an outrage for all of us, irrespective of our politics. They are spying and sharing our most secret communications. How are they getting away with this, James? Under what guise?
There may yet be an outrage. This is the first of maybe half a dozen tapes with dozen employees, high-ranking officials at Twitter. So we're just getting started is my first statement. My second statement is that in one of the subsequent tapes, they say we're going to ban a way of talking. We're going to literally, they're bragging about censoring and shadow banning. They call it shadow banning, right, where they mute you from other people's timelines so that they can't see what you think you're being broadcasted, but you're really not. And they
wait a minute. If someone sends something, they can actually delete it without, block it without us knowing?
Yes, this is in tomorrow's video. You're hearing this for the first time on your show. We actually have tape of them talking about how this shadow banning works, where a user...
But, James, I've got to interject 1,000 times because I've got to keep you for the top of the hour. James, you know, there was a newspaper reporter back when called Jack Anderson. He was loved by liberals in this country. Mm-hmm. He won a Pulitzer Prize for national reporting because he was a left-wing fanatic. He undermined Richard Nixon. He undermined the CIA. He undermined the United States government when it was run by Republicans.
Right.
And he was revered by all of the good liberals of America. He revealed the history of a CIA plot to assassinate the evil bastard Fidel Castro. He was credited for breaking the story of the Iran-Contra affair under President Reagan, almost destroying Reagan's career. As a result, all of the left-wing fanatics loved Jack Anderson and called him a great reporter, an investigative reporter. You're actually doing better work than he did, and you're not being revered by anyone except people who want the truth and they want their freedom back, James. Is this not the most telling story of our time? I think it is. When I return, I got so much that's boiling up. I want these people arrested if they broke the law. I want some of them on H-1B3 visas deported by Donald Trump. And don't think I'm not going to ask him to do it. Wait until you hear what's coming. And now you'll know why Silicon Valley bigs hire little fish from the third world who have no morals and no sense of democracy.
Savage.
Now, many listeners to this radio show do not use Twitter or Facebook. They listen to radio, they read a newspaper, and things like that. They may not even understand what I'm talking about, nor how far-reaching this is in terms of violations of our privacy laws, violations of our sense of freedom, and such. But we have a big story, and I'm going to run with it irrespective of whether the audience is ready for it, because I think that the audience needs to be educated as to what's going on. When you hear an engineer boasting that he is breaking into the President of the United States' private messages and why he's doing it, you're not going to believe why he's doing it and how he does it. And I hope the President gets this message. I will send him a copy of that tape at the end of the show. And I pray to God he understands as quick as he can what has to be done. With us is the man behind it all, James O'Keefe, one of our great investigative reporters. James, you're back with us?
Back.
James, okay, first of all, let me help you by raising some money for your organization. I know my listeners, I was told, have done great things for you in the past, and I don't need it to come through me. I'm not looking to take anything off the top. What is your email address where people can make a donation to your investigative reporting unit?
ProjectVeritas.com. That's Project Veritas.com. By the way, I may be banned from all social media accounts when I release the dozen or so employees I have on tape talking about sharing your private messages with the government and other advertisers. So you have to go to ProjectVeritas.com and download this video and watch it, because this is an unbelievable invasion of privacy, what they're doing, and it's just part.
But is it illegal, James? Is what they are doing illegal?
Much of it is not illegal, and this is what your listeners may not know, is that when you sign up for these programs, and there's 11-point font, the terms and user conditions that goes on for 10 pages, buried in there is some legal language that allows them to do some of these things. But it's still immoral. It's still unethical. It's taking away the megaphone from the people. You'd go into the town square ordinarily. Now you put all your stuff online. On this software that you download, and you don't even know it.
Okay, so let's listen to one of your how many people did you have doing this in Twitter? How many people did you get in there?
How many of my undercover people went in there?
Yes, how many undercover agents did you use to get these people on tape?
We have a couple dozen people at Project Veritas work this story for an entire year. And A year. That's what's involved in doing real investigative reporting, as opposed to NBC, CBS, ABC, and the pancake made-up idiots running around America calling themselves reporters with these $1 million sound trucks here in San Francisco and New York, doing absolutely nothing like this. So you're basically a one-man shop with a few great people working for you. So they go into Twitter. How did they get these people to open up like this, James? Well, we spend months building relationships with sources. We use aliases like Mike Wallace used to do and Upton Sinclair used to do, and even Woodward and Bernstein used deception when they spoke to Deep Throat. We use all the techniques that undercover journalists have used.
Oh, Woodward and Bernstein, the establishmentarians, the great wild Woodward and Bernstein.
You know, and Dr. Savage, I don't know if it's possible, but Tuesday we're releasing so many more tapes of all these employees. I want to come on your show next week and talk about.
Oh yeah, you're welcome anytime. But I want to play something now and have you comment. Here is a man that you say is a senior security network engineer at Twitter boasting about what he does with Donald Trump's private messages. Listen to 01.
The decision, though, was that most of the stuff he tweets is completely newsworthy.
Okay.
And so because it's newsworthy, even though he's making a complete ass out of himself in the country, we have to let those tweets up and let him do what, essentially he has a carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
Okay.
The other thing, too, is that we're more than happy to help the Department of Justice in their little investigation.
Okay.
So,
how?
basically give him every single tweet that he's posted.
Okay.
Even the ones he's deleted.
Okay.
Any direct messages.
Good.
Any mentions. Oh, yeah.
Now, does the president, James, does he actually do direct messages?
Yes, Donald Trump Jr. has done them, and those were leaked by somebody. As to the president, we believe that he does. Everyone does messages. It's a way of...
So, in other words, they're saying they're getting Donald Trump Jr. We don't know if they're doing this to the president. Listen to clip 3 again, and listen very carefully to what the senior network security engineer at Twitter reveals in 03. Let's hear it together.
On one hand, yes, he's dangerous. I don't like him. And he's a terrible human being, and I want to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. In fact, we had internal reviews about that, and we were I wasn't the only one that basically said that if we let this maniac, if we let this maniac continue, I'm going to have a hard time finding another job. Yeah, because, I don't like being part of the machine that is contributing to the America's downfall.
Did you hear what he just said? If we let this maniac continue, he'll have a tough time getting a job. Well, maybe he could find employment making license plates in Alcatraz after this. I'm sure he can get a job making license plates, couldn't he, James?
Well, Dr. Savage, he might lose his job. Twitter responded with a statement today saying the individual does not speak for Twitter. So they're going to throw the senior policy network engineer who's responsible for sharing direct messages with Department of Justice under the bus when he speaks for the company. But this is just part one. See, they say it's an isolated incident, and then we reserve the other footage. If the media had any credibility, they would be giving air to this because they're supposed to be on the team of truth and justice. But there wouldn't be a need for people like me if they were just doing their jobs. And these are the most powerful people in the world, and they're going to sue me, and they're going to probably issue a gag order on me. And that is why I need your audience desperately to go to ProjectVeritas.com and watch and share this video, because they're going to ban me from social media for doing this, for telling the truth.
Well, I put your undercover video on MichaelSavage.com, which I control. I'm not going to ban you, but I put it on Twitter. I linked it there, and so far they haven't taken it down, James. Are you aware of that?
I've got 12 employees on tape. And this is part one. This is one.
No, but I'm saying they have not yet taken down your video from my Twitter feed. Are you aware that they're not doing it yet?
I'm aware of that, and every single time, Dr. Savage, I have done an undercover investigation, I have been sued. Every single time. It doesn't happen on day one. It doesn't happen on day two. It may happen a week later. And there are so many tapes coming out where they're talking about sharing your private parts.
And what could they sue you for, James, for having recorded them illegally?
They can indict a ham sandwich. They can falsely accuse me. They can say tortious interference. They can say trespass. They can say damages. You can sue anyone for any reason. And litigation is central to what I do. Last time I was on your show, you helped us raise a couple $100,000 to pay for all the litigation when you told everyone to go make a donation. I don't have advertisers. I'm a nonprofit foundation. I've got 50 people on my team.
All right, we're talking with James O'Keefe, a true investigative reporter, along the lines of the great investigative reporters of years gone by, the fakers you hear of, the Bernsteins and the Woodwards who do nothing anymore but have wine and drinks with others. They do nothing along the lines of investigative reporting. You have fake actors making believe they're wild and crazy reporters. They're all stooges of the government entertainment complex. James is one of the real investigative reporters, and we should all salute him, liberal and conservative alike, by the way, because it's all of our privacy that is at stake here. Now I want to ask some questions through my audience. I want to take a call. Let's put up caller 5, please, from WTMA in South Carolina. A question for James O'Keefe. Go ahead, please.
James, thank you very much. Dr. Savage, thank you. My question is, how does this parallel WikiLeaks? Here we have somebody who disclosed some very underhanded, dirty deals, and now they can't even come back in the country. I congratulate you on what you've done, but these guys have gone further. They've not only attacked government officials, after private people.
I guess what he's asking is, are you worried about being arrested?
In a way, yes, but not real. This is going to be...
Okay, he's breaking up, unfortunately. Let me ask, James, the caller Mike wanted to know, are you worried about ramifications other than lawsuits?
I have been arrested. Are you talking about me personally, Dr. Savage?
Yeah, you personally, right.
I have been arrested. I have been incarcerated. I have a dozen pieces of civil litigation. Bob Creamer, the guy that we took down in the 2016 election that Trump mentioned in the debates, sued me for $1 million. He's organizing everyone that I secretly record. We are going all in on these tapes. We're going after the most powerful people probably in the world, Facebook, Google, and Twitter. These are publicly traded companies. They have access to all of your information. I think most people who listen to your broadcast at least use a Google product, a Facebook product, or a Twitter product. Most people do. And they're sharing your private messages, and you don't even know it, including your private parts, or if people are, silly enough to tweet that stuff to your wife or something, or a photo of yourself without a T-shirt on, and they're giving that away to people, and they're laughing about it. They're going to come after me. It may not be today. It's going to be in the next week. How do I deal with it? I push forward. I don't apologize for what we do, and we've got a great team, and we're going to keep doing it. We're speaking truth to power, much like they used to do.
Let's listen to another secretly recorded message given to us by, shall I say secretly recorded? Isn't that a violation of law in California?
No, because we do it in...
I understand California law. You can't record someone if you don't disclose in advance you're doing so. Isn't that true?
That's not true. As long as you're in an area where there's no expectation of privacy, you can record them without their knowledge. As long as other people can overhear the conversation, is how the law works in California.
Well, I think your undercover agent is quite good. She laughs at the right time to encourage the engineer to keep going in what he is saying. Yes. She laughs as though she's on his side, right?
Yes, we built the trust of these guys. We use a variety of aliases to get their trust. Yes, that's correct. And
and I noticed that she uses her hands and her rings and her nail polish a little to I'm saying this is interesting stuff. It would make for a good movie. So what you're doing and what your undercover reporters are doing, James, is very much like what the fakers in Hollywood pretend to be doing. Pretending to be daring investigative reporters, but they don't do any of that stuff, do they? Why are they not on your side, James? Obviously, the answer to me is because your targets are not the targets they'd like them to be. They'd like you to be going after Michael Savage, Donald Trump. Anyone who is a conservative patriot is who they would like you to be undermining, not people on their side. So this is a political game of undercover video. There's another video I want to play right now on the show quickly before the time is up. We played 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let us listen to the engineer in clip 2 and hear what he has to say, and then we'll take a break.
You should look at junior and senior and see what's in there. You know what I mean?
Have you seen?
There's a reason why we have subpoena process for that very reason.
Okay.
Wow. But yeah, we can absolutely look at every single message, every single tweet, whatever you log into, what profile pictures you upload, what profile pictures that you thought you were going to do.
Are you working with DOJ currently on that?
I can't comment, and if I knew, I wouldn't comment. But
he said, are you working with the DOJ currently on that? He said, I can't comment. If I knew, I couldn't comment. Are they working with the DOJ, James?
That's what he appears to say to the young woman. He says, we are more than helping. We are happy to help the Justice Department with their little investigation. We're
all right. Hold it. James O'Keefe, Project Veritas. I'm taking a quick commercial break in order to make sure this program keeps going. When I return, we'll return with the news of the day, and it's a big one. It's the biggest story, not of the day, of a long period of time.
Savage.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. In the midst of all of this, let me talk about your body's circulation. What's the big deal? Because good circulation is crucial not only to your thinking, but to energy, to stamina, because it brings oxygen and nutrients flowing throughout your body. You can exercise longer, right? Well, no, not unless you take certain things to help you. And I'm telling you to take Super Beets because it promotes the body's own natural ability to produce healthier circulation for increased energy and stamina all day long. And only Super Beets is made from beets, which are grown to exacting standards, and then they concentrate them into superfood crystals, okay? That's how they make the drink. So if you want to improve your circulation, call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeets.com. With your first order, you're going to get another 30-day supply of Super Beets for free, plus indicator strips, which will tell you how the Super Beets are working inside your body, and, of course, free shipping. Simply call 800-481-0504. I got to read it again because I'm reading so fast. 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeets.com today. Now let's go back to the big story of the day, maybe of the decade. James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, are you with us again on the Savage Nation? I hope you are. You want to conclude your visit by telling us what's coming next?
Yes, thank you. So this first video was about Twitter giving the private direct messages to the Department of Justice, saying that's what they're doing with Trump's private messages. The next videos are going to talk about, and this is exclusive on your show, I'm announcing this tomorrow. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Their engineers are on tape, and their policy people at Twitter are on tape, talking about censoring. When you tweet or Facebook something, you have to put it on a timeline, and they call it shadow banning, so it doesn't show up on other people's computers without you knowing. And they describe how they do it. They even get into the engineering of it, the algorithms, and how they weigh them to target political conservative ideas.
Well, let me say this. I'm looking on my own Twitter feed where I posted your tape, and someone wrote this. Victor says, time to rein in Twitter and Google, declare them a public utility, and subject government regulation. They must protect free speech and free thought. What about that? Should they be declared public utilities, in your opinion?
I don't think they should. I think the free market has a solution as long as people are informed. But unless CEO Jack Dorsey of Twitter makes his HR policies and algorithms public, the government will intervene. They will intervene. But I think there's other platforms like Gab and others that people should be utilizing. People need to know what's happening to their private information. So tomorrow we drop part 2, where they say they're going to ban a way of talking. They describe the specific conservatives they're censoring on the platform without you knowing, and they describe how they do it. And then we go into them sharing your private...
Who are they banning? Which conservatives are they going after?
That's my story, so I have to really...
All right, that's tomorrow. All right, everybody go to ProjectVeritas.com and send them some money. He lives on donations. He's a great guy, investigative reporter. None of it goes through me. I'm not part of the cartel that needs to skim money off the top of everything that comes near them. There's not enough money in the world for the cartel. But for me, let the good get gooder. This is the Savage Nation. When I come back, DACA and immigration right here on the Savage Nation.
Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
I do have people that are, let's just to use a very common term, very far right and very far left. They're very unhappy about what we're doing, but I really don't believe they have to be, because I really think this sells itself. And, when you talk about comprehensive immigration reform, which is where I would like to get to eventually, if we do the right bill here, we are not very far away. We've done most of it. If you want to know the truth, Dick, if we do this properly, DACA, you're not so far away from comprehensive immigration reform. And if you want to take it that further step, I'll take the heat. I don't care. I don't care. I'll take all the heat you want to give me. And I'll take the heat off both the Democrats and the Republicans. My whole life has been heat. I like heat in a certain way.
Clear as a bell, but apparently not clear to those who are unable to hear. Clear as a bell what he just said. Well, USA Today's headline is clear. It says, an extraordinary public negotiation with Congress, Trump promises to sign DACA bill. New York Times says Trump appears to endorse path to citizenship for millions of immigrants. And yet there are those who didn't hear that. They heard something else. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, Trump himself just said he wants to sign DACA and amnesty. He said so. But I realize many of you didn't actually hear it because you were told you didn't hear what you heard. You were told what you were supposed to have thought you heard rather than what you actually heard. And that's the beauty of talk radio, is that you can be talked into anything. So my goal is not to talk you into anything, but to talk you into reality. And the reality is that if Trump signs DACA and he legalizes 4 million illegal aliens, they will bring in through chain migration 16 million, and America will have a national Tammany Hall that will assure not a Republican is ever elected for the next 80 to 100 years. It will be the end not only of the Trump revolution, it will be the end of the Republican Party as you know it. So go ahead. Make believe you didn't hear what he just said. I heard it very clearly, and I oppose it very clearly. It's that simple. And I oppose it for practical reasons. I'm a fiscal conservative. And I have said before that our children come first. Our children's dreams should come first, not those of illegal aliens' children. And I will say again what I said yesterday. If DACA is signed into law, it will be an empirical disaster. Words you've not yet heard yet in the legion of talk radio geniuses, but it will be an empirical disaster based upon the facts on the ground. I can ask you what you think about it, but I know what you think about it. So let's go to some other things. This is to show you how stupid some governors are. There's a governor in Washington. I don't know why he's not in a madhouse. He claimed that there's only 59 days left to save children from global warming. I do not know why he's not been hospitalized. I think the man needs to be immediately helped. Washington State's Democratic Governor Jay Inslee warned there was, quote, just 59 days to save future generations from an endless cycle of crop-killing droughts 1 year and rivers spilling their banks the next. What this geographic illiterate does not know is that this is a weather pattern that has been ongoing long before there was a state of Washington. It's called climate moron. He went on a lengthy Twitter rant in efforts to convince the state legislature to pass legislation to tax carbon dioxide emissions. Now, Washington residents are not as mad as the governor. They voted down Inslee's last carbon tax plan by a wide margin in 2016. So now he said there's only 59 days. I don't know why it's not 58 days. Why couldn't it be 61 days to save? He says it's 59 days. It's a power grab. It's a money grab. If you want to know insanity, Connecticut City's elected body eliminated gender pronouns, Stanford Advocate. The so-called legislative body, which sounds like it's not only morose, but dead, it sounds as though it's speaking from the crypt, has removed gender pronouns from its written rules. The Board of Reps voted last week in this mad town to remove he, she, and his, her from its rules of order. Now, have you ever heard anything like this? Why would they remove he and she and his and her from their rules of order unless they're insane? The change was proposed by 3 demon cats elected to the 40-member board in November, including Raven Mathern, the state's first openly transgender elected official. It's an act to acknowledge the members of this board, just as in each of our districts in the city at large, cannot always be described as he or she, said Mathern. The move gives Stanford the opportunity to set the bar in updating its language to be LGBTQ inclusive. One Democratic moron said it's a modernization. Gender nouns are no longer used as often in legal documents or legislative documents, said Benjamin Lee. I want to ask you, the listeners of this show, how can such a tiny, infinitesimally small minority of people change the language itself? Answer, because they're not controlled by the cowardly, psychotic Democrats around them. 855-400-728. The stories get crazier by the day. Some birds are so stressed by noise pollution it looks like they have PTSD. You know, that's a real fact of reality. Acoustic degradation, they're calling it. I'm very sensitive to acoustic degradation, whether it's in a restaurant or anywhere else. I have to live in a very quiet place where I can't sleep, I can't think. So I believe it could be a habitat degradation, and that noise does hurt animals. I know it hurts me, and I'm an animal. Here's another one from the New York Post, this one by Larry Salona and Bruce Golding. Man says Elliot Spitzer threatened to stab him in the penis during dinner. I'll let that one go. I don't think it's that interesting. It's Elliot Spitzer, after all, and we know what to expect from him. Here's a weird story. An Alabama man was accused of sexually molesting a horse repeatedly after its owner believes she found evidence of his crimes left behind in a barn stall. Now, I guess the only good news here is that it occurred in Alabama, Roy Moore's home state. And what I think is that we should talk about comprehensive equine reform next. And I do believe that this Alabama horse molester, if it's true that he did this, he's awaiting trial after he allegedly told Mobile County Sheriff's Office that he did attempt to molest the horse. I would think that what he should do is move with his horse, his love horse, to California, and then the governor of the state of California, Jerry Brown, could officiate at their wedding. And then we could have a man-horse love association where it would be perfectly legal for a man to marry a horse. And then, of course, they can vote. The horse can vote. The man could vote. Any offspring, even though it seems to be impossible now. You never know what the scientists at the University of California might come up with. Maybe they can find a way to make cross-species gestation possible. I don't know. It's certainly possible. The owner of the 20-year-old steed told WPMI-TV she found the man in the barn after her dog's barking led her to the scene. Owner Francine Janes and her husband, who was armed with a gun, found Bennett hiding in a barn stall. Upon being found, Janes said he told her that, quote, he likes horses, he wanted to pet the horse. So they held him at gunpoint until police arrived, and then they found a trench coat and a burglar's tool in it. Okay, let that go. Janes doesn't believe this is the first time Bennett has inappropriately interacted with her horse. I won't go into the graphic details, but he was charged with possession of burglar's tools, sexual misconduct and second-degree criminal trespassing, and I guess the crime of bestiality is a misdemeanor, claiming he engaged in or submitted to any sexual contact with an animal, a horse. As I say, in Alabama maybe it's illegal, but I don't think it's illegal in California. I think that they would be welcomed in the sanctuary state of California, because here even the Man-Horse Love Association can vote and use public assistance. So I suggest he leave Alabama as soon as possible and come on out here. Okay, callers on all these topics. Let's see. KUGN. Josh on line 3. Go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, Dr. Savage. I guess my question to you, personal question to you, is I know a lot of times you say you're a sexual libertarian and a fiscal conservative. Is there any part of you at all that leans Democrat? Anything?
No, I wouldn't say leans Democrat. I would say leans humane. I'll give you an example. There's a story that came out where Alaska, because of the psycho governors, the psycho senators from Alaska, they permitted hunters to go in and kill hibernating bears and their baby bears in caves where they're hibernating. That is about the most inhumane story I've read in my lifetime. And so I wouldn't say I side with Democrats because I don't know what their position is on this. I side with humanity and humane acts towards mankind and to other animals. Does that answer your question?
I guess I'll be a little more okay. How about liberal? Is there anything liberal that you lean toward at all? Anything?
You have to give me a suggested idea, and then I might be able to say yes or no. Give me an idea, because you think I do in some ways, and I'd like to know what you think.
Gay rights or any of that type of stuff, you know.
That stuff. Wow.
Gay rights.
I'm a sexual libertarian. I've said that. I don't care what adults do with each other's bodies as long as it's consensual. It's not my business. That's a pretty broad statement, isn't it?
It is. All right, that answered my question. So thank you.
So what is it that you're getting at? You're getting at something. I can hear it right under the surface.
You know, I've been listening to you forever, and I guess I'm just asking to try to know you more, to know you better, because I know a lot of times, like some conservatives that I know personally, they might lean like liberal in some way, but they never really come out and say it.
I see. I'm not hiding anything. What you hear is what you get.
Yeah.
I mean, what you hear is what you get. What I said to President Trump is what you heard on this radio show. I didn't hide from him where I stood on animals in the land either. He listened to me. And by the way, I have some very good news for those of you out there who think that it's just tree hugging and it has no effect. There's a huge story that came out yesterday, and I would like to think that I had something to do with it. The president announced yesterday, I don't know how they dropped this story. It's a huge story. Here it is. No drilling off Florida coast. And I said, thank you, Mr. President. Now, does it mean it's because I said things about that on this show? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do have a listenership that's quite broad. I was screaming and yelling about drilling off coasts. I said it would destroy the beach resorts. It would destroy the ecosystem. It would destroy sea life. Maybe someone in the president's inner circle heard me. I know the governor of Florida opposed it. We can't have oil rigs off the coast of Florida, off the coast of New Jersey, off the coast of Maryland, without expecting a blowout and the destruction of animal life and the beaches. So I do think that what I say is what you get, and I thank you very much for that call. The time is exactly lunchtime for me. My Thai lunch has just arrived, luckily just in time. It's 18 minutes after the hour. I'm going to see if I can eat it in the block of time that is reserved for the cycle of revenue gain that is about to play on the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Trump appears to endorse path to citizenship for millions of immigrants, says Julie Hirschfield Davis, Cheryl Gay Stahlberg of the New York Times. The writing is very interesting. It says, the push for an immigration deal with Democrats has the potential to alienate the hardline anti-immigration activists who powered his political rise and helped him win the presidency, many of whom have described it as amnesty for lawbreakers. They have that right. I mean, they do know how to write. They have great command of the language. So, hours after the meeting, Mr. Trump appeared to harden his insistence on the wall, writing on Twitter, quote, as I made very clear today, our country needs the security of the wall on the southern border, which must be part of any DACA approval. So it looks like he's tilting toward the DACA deal. And I love every time you hear the word young people, you know they're lying, because I investigated it. Many of them are in their 20s and 30s. So I guess everyone in their 30s now is a young person. I guess that's good for me as well, because it makes me 40 years younger than I am. If you're still young at 40, to them, a young person, I guess there's no such thing as a senior citizen. But the comments earlier Tuesday were a remarkable break with the divisive messaging that propelled Mr. Trump to the White House and the harsh policies that have defined his first year in office. Okay. Well, look, I'm gonna bring it down home here on the Savage Nation. I am eating lunch as I speak to you. I don't do this as a shtick. It's just that I have to eat at a certain time, irrespective of whether my show is on or not. And it's generally around this time that I send my assistant out for food. Today I'm eating Thai food. Now, the reason I'm talking about it is I just realized while gobbling and jamming it down my throat, everything I touched in this container comes from an immigrant's hands. I'm going to give you an example. On the left side of the tray, there's carrots, some sort of lettuce. And so the carrots and lettuce were probably picked by illegal immigrants, probably driven to market by illegal immigrants, probably distributed off the trucks by illegal immigrants, probably sold in a store by illegal immigrants. The shrimp was probably fished by illegal immigrants and probably harvested by illegal immigrants. The broccoli, see what I'm saying? The rice, probably grown in a rice field by illegal immigrants. So I'm asking myself, let's think about this very carefully. Where are we going to get the labor to do all of this stuff? Let's take the most extreme example. Not only does he not sign DACA, but he does a 180 and he throws them all out, which is never going to happen. But let's say, and then he goes further and he starts rounding them up. They're doing that, by the way, with 7-Eleven employees right now, in case you don't know it. It's a big deal. So who is going to take these jobs? Your son? Your daughter? The millions of bums who are on welfare who refuse to work? The homeless bums who are laying in the gutters, sucking billions of dollars a year out of our economy, contributing nothing like leeches and parasites? Who is going to pick the lettuce? Who's going to harvest and pick the shrimp and the calamari? Who is going to grow the rice and distribute the rice? You're going to do it? The standard conservative or right-wing answer is, well, let the free market determine. Okay, so my lunch was probably $8.95 because it was primarily based upon very, very low labor costs. I'm a practical man. If you were actually to pay a fair working wage to raise the vegetables, the rice, the shrimp, etc., this dish would cost probably $38.95, and then I wouldn't buy it. It'd be too expensive. Then the Thai restaurant would go out of business. So you have to be very cautious. The factories are run by who? Your son? Your son is busy looking at himself in the mirror to go to a club tonight. Your daughter, she's getting ready to go out with her girlfriend. She's going to raise the vegetables? Who is going to do it? The prisoners? You make them raise the shrimp? Who's going to do it? The writers of the New York Times? I'm not going to do it.
Savage.
Okay. DACA is cockeyed, yet the newspapers are reporting that what we heard from the president is what we heard, as opposed to some people who cannot hear at all, who are telling us what we heard is not what we heard, that he didn't mean a word of what he said, that he was actually tricking the opposition, which I find to be amazing. I think the president is saying very clearly, I'll take the heat. Not only will I do DACA, but I'll go further, I'll do immigration reform. I'll give you everything Lindsey Graham and McCain wanted and then some. So that's what we're talking about today. That'll be a bill of love. Well, it'll be a bill of love for La Raza for sure. I know they're celebrating in Mexico right now, and they're pouring over the border waiting for the great passage of DACA and immigration reform. I don't know what you're going to need a wall for. If you pass DACA, what do you need a wall for? I think you should get rid of the Border Patrol. I think we should pass DACA, immigration reform, meaning legalize everyone and all their families, and get rid of the wall that's there, any wall, and get rid of the border. Just erase it. And that would be the way to go. That's the capitalist system. Dissolve our border with Mexico so that all people can live freely and flow freely. Goods and services can flow freely. Get rid of the Border Patrol. Give them jobs as ushers in a movie theater. Then take guns away from all the police in America because you don't want them skirmishing with drug dealers and drug distributors, because that is a way that intelligent immigrants make a good living. They don't want to pick vegetables. If they're smart and they're aggressive, they do what Al Capone did. They go where the money is, and so they go into the drug business. And you don't want to impede capitalism. Don't you believe in free market capitalism, all you conservative Republicans? Don't always hear those words. Free market capitalism. So by following that logic, that should dictate every decision, then I think you should legalize all drugs and eliminate the police so that drug dealers can have free reign of free capitalism in the distribution and sale of drugs. I think that's the logic of the right wing today in America. Now let's go to the callers. Lou on WA. Let's keep it to 30 seconds or less. Lou, line one, fire away.
Dr. Savage, I'm far from a specialist on immigration, but a just hypothetical question. I know in past you've mentioned that it's rather not feasible to send everybody back. So what if they, again, hypothetically speaking, decided to keep these people here, but these people were not allowed to vote and they cannot bring anyone else over?
Well, so that would be they'd be 4/5 a man. We'd be back to the age of slavery. They'd be citizens, but they can't vote. So that's 4/5 a man. I don't think that's going to work. Do you?
Would say. Well, the
they'd be okay. You can live here, but you can't vote here. So that's 4/5 a man. You think that the crackpot judges are going to let that happen?
No, probably not. But again, I'm not a specialist. It's just a thought I had.
I'm just answering the question. I'm telling you, it's either all or nothing. There's no two ways about it. There's no half measure here.
Right.
There's no half measure here. I don't see how they're going to get this. It's either 100% of one thing or 100% of the other. There's no in between. There is no compromise here. That's my opinion. Next one, 30 seconds or less. WBOB in Jacksonville. Joe, you're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yes, my question is, if Trump signs the DACA deal and the amnesty, isn't that just as bad as George Bush when he said, read my lips, no new taxes? That's going to really hurt.
I don't know. You'll have to ask other talk show hosts about that one. Don't ask me. I'm the wrong one to ask. This would be like I think this would be like read my hips rather than read my lips. Okay, let's go to the next one. KLIF, Dallas. Nick, on the DACA deal, it looks like the president wants. What do you think of it?
Thank you for taking my call, Dr. Savage. If I remember correctly, and I may misremember, But in the 80s, didn't we have a deal that we were going to grant amnesty to millions of people in return for a border wall, and then the money for the border wall was spent on something else?
Yes, of course. That's what would happen again. It's the same story of the Republican National Committee. It's as though Jeb Bush won the presidency on the issue of immigration. This is what Jeb Bush wanted. This is what John McCain has been working for all of his life. So, yes, it's absolutely the same thing, and we'll never get a border wall. We're going to get nothing out of the deal if this goes through. And that's where I think that the president may think he could do DACA and win over his base. He will not win his base over, irrespective of what I say, one way or the other. This was such a hard-fought victory, and it was won by the hair of a nose. There is no way that he can write a DACA bill and continue to have the support of those people who put him in power. There's no way this would ever happen, Nick. That's my, not opinion, it's a fact of reality. It's a reality on every level. Vince, on WDRC Radio. Vince, line 1, what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing? I just can't understand why we're making such a big deal about our wall. But if you look at the wall that Mexico has between them and Guatemala, it makes ours look like a chain link fence.
That's right. Well, Mexico is very protective of its borders, language, and culture. And when they catch Guatemalans sneaking in, they treat them very harshly because they believe in their national sovereignty. The only country that doesn't is the United States of America and, of course, Canada and all of Western Europe, which are as open and as sieved like Swiss cheese, as a result of which they're losing not only their national identity, but their language and their culture, which is why the motto of this show has been, always will be, borders, language, culture. It's a definition of a nation. If you break a border, you break a nation. And it's the same on a cellular level, whether it's an animal or a plant. I'll give you the analogy again. Trained as a biologist, even if you had high school biology, same thing. Remember when you studied high school biology and you looked at a plant cell under a microscope? It had a very hard cell wall around it, right? You looked at an animal cell, it had a very thin cell membrane, right? What happens when you dissolve a cell membrane is the cell falls apart. The cell is dissolved. There is no cell anymore. It's defined by its membrane if it is an animal cell. It is defined by its wall if it's a plant cell. And if you dissolve the wall of these cells, animal or plant, they no longer exist as an entity. They lose their identity, they lose their form, they lose their structure. In other words, they die. Which is why every nation from the beginning of time has been defined by its border and identified through its border controls and identified through its language and its culture. It's a no-brainer. If we dissolve our borders, we dissolve our language, we dissolve our culture. If that's what you want, then vote accordingly. If that's not what you want, then vote accordingly. It's that simple. Let's go to the next caller. KSFO, Harvey, line 9, topic, please.
Dr. Savage, I think that this agricultural thing is a smoke screen just to allow more illegals to come up here and pick vegetables. I mean, who's going to pick our vegetables if we don't have the illegals? If we don't have the illegals, they're going to mechanize. The cotton gin was invented 150 years ago. We have the initiative and the brain power to mechanize that industry, so we don't need this unskilled labor picking our vegetables. I think it's a smoke.
Right, but Jerry Brown wouldn't be in office without it. Governor Cuomo wouldn't be in office without it. Every Democrat state in the land would not be a Democrat state if it wasn't for the illegal alien vote. We all know that. That's why they fought so hard against very sensible voter ID laws. It has nothing to do with labor. It has everything to do with voting and voting blocks. It's Tammany Hall all over again.
Can I make one more quick point? And I agree with you. One more thing. I was listening to some numbers, and they said of the illegal aliens that come into this country, 1% are in agriculture, and that is it. So when they tell you we need them for our agriculture, and that's why we're letting them in, it's a smokescreen. It's a bunch of BS.
Well, I thank you for that call. Many people know the truth, and they speak the truth. So now let's look at the DACA issue per se. I'm going to go to my website. I hope the article is still up there. I don't know. I kind of say to the webmaster, please leave it up every day, and it disappears every day. I don't know if it's still up there somewhere. Let's see. Robert De Niro attacks Trump at rant at awards later. What a lying bum he is. You know, I used to love Robert De Niro's acting. If I'm scanning a TV thing, I go right past him. A bum, a mook, a mutt. I've never seen anything like this guy. A mutt, a mook, a bum.
He's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't
He
do
thinks
his
he's in the
homework,
Goodfellas.
doesn't care. Thinks
You know,
he's
Robert,
gaming.
Robert, you're not in a movie. Stop it, Robert, please. You're not in a movie. You're going into character now. You know what you sound like? A putz, not a mook, not a mutt, not a dog. You sound like a putz, a moron, an old man shooting his mouth off. Robert, why don't you try a talk show for a day? Should I let Robert De Niro fill in for 3 hours? Let's see how well he does without a script. Okay, I'm inviting Robert De Niro to fill in on the Savage Nation. I'll give him advance notice. He's got to do a full 3-hour show, and I will let him fill in for me the next time I'm off. And I want to see how well he does without a script. I want to see if he's as tough-minded as he makes believe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe I'll be quite surprised. I'm looking for an article. Like, American tourist arrested after ingesting Viagra, stripping nude, and throwing feces at Thai airport. That's not it. Where is the thing on the DACA where I have all the data that I need? Meritocracy is a tool of whiteness, claims math professor. You hear at Brooklyn College? Meritocracy now is a tool of whiteness. In other words, if you could add, you can subtract, you can speak English. It's a tool of whiteness now. No, I can't find it. I just cannot find it. Where's Steve Bannon today? He lost everything all at once. I mean, that's terrible. You talk about a fall from grace? Wow. That was it. They threw him off Sirius, too, because Breitbart, this, not funny. I mean, you really fall hard when you fall out of the media. I got to tell you, it's a long road down. And all I can say is this. Never forget what the sage Jimmy Durante said, a well-known Nobel laureate, who said, be awfully nice to everyone you meet on the way up, because you're going to meet them all on the way down. Robert, you got to remember that. I don't mean you, Borowski. I mean De Niro. Be awfully nice to everyone you meet on the way up, Robert De Niro, because you're going to meet them all on the way down. I can't find it. Maybe Karen can post it again. Switzerland rejects citizenship bids on residents who have been on welfare. Good for them. Poor little Switzerland. I'll find it, but I have all the DACA data, and they're not all 15-year-olds. They're many of them are in their 20s and 30s. Where are we now? I wanted to some DACA callers. Here we go. KSFO Monica, line 6. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yes, I'm calling because I do have a different viewpoint with DACA. I am a citizen, so I don't want people to assume that I'm a DACA recipient. To me, it's kind of like doing the right thing. Yeah, they're adults now, and they were younger when they came in. How are they supposed to survive in a place, in their country of origin, where they've never been to? That's merely like...
Well, that's a good question, but I want to ask you a question. When there are such scarce resources for the younger people in this country, many of whom are struggling to get started, don't you think we should give our indigenous young the first shot at jobs and scholarships and such?
Yes, I agree with that. And I do.
Well, how can you... See, but this is the problem. We're still under the assumption that America is such a rich nation that we can be all things to all people and have no borders and everyone's going to get along. Unfortunately, it's a crowded lifeboat, an old analogy that still works. The lifeboat is up to its gunwales in water, and any more people are going to sink the lifeboat. So there's only a limited amount of space in the lifeboat called the good ship America. And I'd rather see the people in this country who are citizens, young people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter what their sexual orientation is. If they're citizens, they should be given the opportunities, not opportunities to non-citizens, Monica. That's the point. There's a limited or finite amount of resources, and they have to go to our citizens first. That's one man's opinion. But in addition to that, there's a bigger issue. The issue is one of culture. These DACA recipients have grown up, for whatever the reason, in the shadow of this nation. They will never, ever accept our way of life. They have been born and bred to hate a certain demographic in this nation. And if you think I'm making it up, ask anyone from that background. I know it for a fact. They hate a certain demographic of this nation, and they're never going to learn to accept the demographic, even if that demographic that I am discussing extends them the hand of friendship. They will always hate that demographic. Can you read between the lines? I hope you can, because I'll be right back while you're reading.
Savage.
let me ask you something. Are you still doing a lot of post-holiday shopping from a mobile device? Well, retailers expect 54% of holiday shoppers to visit their sites from mobile devices, and scammers see this as an opportunity to steal your credit card information and other personal data by distributing phony retail apps. What's that mean? It means be cautious and only download apps from reputable app stores and read the reviews for any complaints about malware. 1 in 4 people have experienced identity theft. If you're only monitoring your credit, your identity can still be stolen in ways you may not detect. Thieves could sell your information on the dark web or get an online payday loan in your name, right? But LifeLock detects a wide range of identity threats. If you have a problem, U.S.-based restoration specialists will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock, great company, can uncover threats that you might miss. So I want you to join now and get 10% off with promo code SAVAGE. It's that simple. 1-800-LifeLock. Or go to lifelock.com and use my promo code SAVAGE. That's SAVAGE to save 10% now. Now let's go to the callers. KSFO, Edwin, line 6. What's your DACA solution, if there is one?
Yes, sir, Dr. My DACA solution is this. In all fairness to the individuals, I get it. I live in California, work in the industry. I see it all the time. However, they've been here at a cost to the American tax-paying citizens. And rather than deporting them, or rather than sending them into mandatory service in the military, I propose, much like the American citizens that have gone to school, have college debt, that it's determined on a case-by-case basis how much they've cost the American taxpayers. And
you think these so-called illegal alien children are going to pay back the money they've taken from us in terms of free education, free medication? I don't think so. It's a great idea. You actually think Dick Durbin and Dianne Feinstein are going to go along with that one? I don't. It's all or nothing. It's a war. And by the way, I'll remind you what they composed themselves of. Only 900 of the DACA beneficiaries served in the military. Never forget this, because you're going to hear they're serving in the military. 900. And they're going to paint you a picture of studious high school students. Well, many of the so-called dreamers are adults. According to the Pew Research Center, a very left-wing, the average age of DACA is 24. Then 37% are between ages 21 to 25. A quarter of them are between the ages of 26 to 30. 10% of them are ages 31 to 36. They're not young people. They're not young people. Leftist groups saying that there's only 600,000 to 800,000. No, there's 4 million of them. You give them amnesty, they're going to bring in 16 million. That will make you a serf in your own nation. That's why I oppose legalizing